I'm not a video reviewer of anything, but not many people have the Lenovo Thinkpad P51 laptop, so I wanted to show you what it's like in case you're interested in getting one. Let's start by unlocking the laptop with the new fingerprint sensor. 3, 2, 1. And it's identified me and logged in. So the fingerprint sensor, it's a bit recessed and it has a cool little light here that tells you when you can press it. And it's worked really well for me so far, hasn't misidentified any of my finger presses. Let's talk about the screen. This is a 1080p screen, and out of the box, the colors on it are just awful. It has a really green tinge on the whites. I've got it set to something different now, but I'll just show you what it looks like. See how green that is? So I modified it to increase the blue, a little bit of the red, and way turn down the green. And it gives me a kind of decent looking picture. Now, how do I know it's decent, seeing as I'm not calibrating the screen? Well, I loaded up some of my spider pictures, and this one looks pretty cool. And I have it sitting next to a work laptop, which is a Lenovo T430S. And this is an awful screen. That's 1600 by 900, but the colors on it look fine. And I know that because it's sitting next to a Retina MacBook Pro, where the colors are awesome out of the box, and that of course looks the best of all, especially because it's a Retina screen, but also the whites are just really bright and neutral, I guess. However, because I've modified these settings a little bit, the blues end up way overdone compared to the T430S next to it, and again compared to the Retina next to that. However, when we talk about viewing angles, you can still see this screen perfectly fine, whereas of course this screen is garbage and the Mac is great at any angle. Now, being a 1080p screen and a Lenovo laptop, you never would have bought this if you were going to do photographic work, but I bought it for normal work, so it's not a big deal. All I really care about is getting a nice white out of it. Oh yeah, and by the way, these two screens are both in full brightness, just for comparison purposes. When you go in to do text and stuff, well, the screen is fine. I don't have any dead pixels or anything like that. And after you adjust those colors, it really does look okay. I'm kind of tempted to get a display calibrator now, just to see what you can get out of it. Even though I know it will be bad, just something to make the colors more balanced, I guess. For the next topic, let's talk about the display style. Well, on the P51, which is probably a lot like the P50, which I watched a lot of reviews of, but have never actually touched one in real life, the display is quite thin and, well, it still feels sturdy, and you can snap the laptop shut and reopen it with one hand without the laptop moving, which is a useful benchmark for some reason. On the T430S, it has a kind of curved lip, and it has a kind of latching system. There's no latch on the T51. And of course, well, we don't care about the MacBook. Now, when it comes to talking about the vents, the P51 has a whole bunch of vents underneath at the bottom. Hoping the camera will focus and you can see some of that. But it does mean that if you use this on your lap, it's going to get quite hot if you're doing something intensive. But the only intensive thing you can really do on it is play video games on the video card, because it's not really designed for video games. It's got these vents on the back too, and a little warning about these is that there's all these heat sinks inside and they're really close to the edge, which sucks because it has a tendency to zap you with static electricity. There's no such vents on here. Well, there's something over here, but I haven't seen the heat sinks on it, and the Mac has nothing. Noise-wise, whoa, you wouldn't know about the P51. It's actually currently running 5 virtual machines, and it is barely breaking a sweat. Look, practically nothing going on. I spec this up with a Xeon processor, the V6 processor. I think it's 3 gigahertz quad core with hyperthreading, and 32 gigs of ECC RAM, and a 1TB Samsung SSD. I don't have an SSD speed tester on here right now, but last time I tested it, it was 2.5 gigs read, and I think 1200 or 1300 megabytes per second write. This mid 2015 MacBook, I think that was 800 megs a second write. Anyway, it was much slower than the current P51. And noise-wise, the fans are pretty decent on it. Like I said, if you start a video game though, the heat output by that Quadro graphics processor in it is quite a... It gets really hot and a little noisy, but for normal workloads where you're not using the GPU, it's perfectly fine. Hey, let's talk about the trackpad. Well, apparently it's like a P50 trackpad. It's not glass or anything. It has these cool buttons which are a bit clicky. Don't know if you can hear that. But it works okay. They have precision drivers with these ones, so you can do gestures. The trackpad has a tendency to sometimes skip back a couple pixels at the end. See that, like, it just skipped back there? That's a pain in the ass. I hate that. And also, when you're doing gestures, like in Windows 10, you can swipe side to side with 3 fingers to go backwards and forwards in a web browser. But if you've got it on your lap and you're doing it at an angle like this, it tends to interpret that as showing all your windows or showing the desktop, which is a pain in the ass, and it's bit me so many times. So that's a bit irritating. Not really Lenovo's fault, it's probably Windows 10's fault. By comparison, the trackpad on this is awful, and the trackpad on the MacBook is fantastic. But only in Mac, it's not really so good with Windows. As far as keyboards go, the keyboard has really grown on me, especially after a couple of days of use when it has kind of broken in a little bit. It's got a really nice feel to it, and I didn't even think I would like the feel. The keypad on the T430S is very similar, although the keys feel a little bit shinier or smoother, but that could just be wear. And of course on this MacBook, this is before they totally destroyed their key design, and the keys on this are really cool too. And that was my preferred key, but now I gotta say that this is really feeling like my preferred key. It has a kind of clicky feel, but it's not too noisy, and yeah, it just feels nice. However, it is the second keyboard of its kind that I had, because when it came out of the box, it had this keyboard which was fucking broken. How was it broken? Well, you couldn't press this key down. And why? Well, when they manufacture the keyboards, they push in this screw stud thing here, must be hammered in, and the machine seems to be able to make a mistake where it can push it through a little hard and interfere with the operation of this key. And it took a couple of days for Lenovo to ship a replacement keyboard out and replace it. But they did, so thanks for that. They came to my house to replace it. They didn't have to, because the laptop is actually imported from America, but they recognized that it was really new, and so they just did it. So kudos. This is the power brick, which is quite big, and that's just a little international adapter I've got because it's a universal power brick. Lenovo, funnily enough, do not sell the figure 8 power cable separately, although you could pick one up from Officeworks or something like that for like $5. But I haven't found one that really feels quality to me, so I just use that power adapter. Although funnily, man, it's a real piece of garbage. It's brand new from Bunnings, but when you plug this into the wall with the power adapter in it, it'll arc out somewhere in here. And apparently it's quite common with cheap power adapters because they've got so many of these metal pins so close to each other. So what you have to do is turn off the power point before you jam this in, and then you'll be safe. So that's what I do. Yay. So that's that. So when I got this laptop, the first thing I did was wipe what Lenovo put on there because I don't trust them after the Superfish incident. Put in a fresh copy of Windows 10 downloaded from Microsoft. I've got Windows 10 Pro running on here. And then I used the Lenovo app, which hopefully didn't install any bad stuff, to download my drivers. So it's called System Update. It works really well, surprisingly well. I mean, I've always done drivers manually. And you go to Lenovo's website, you can download drivers manually. Actually, they make it really easy to find, so I'm quite surprised by that. But also, you just run this app and it told me all the firmware and everything that was out of date and quickly updated it, and it worked really well. Some of the other things you can install from Lenovo though, which I have and probably recommend that you do, is a Windows 10 app called Lenovo Settings and a third one called Lenovo Companion. And they have some pretty cool functionality. To get them running though, you have to install another download, and that download gave me tons of errors when trying to install, like weird DLL errors. So that's not really inspiring confidence. But the cool things about this are that it lets you change some firmware settings, and you can set these in the BIOS as well, to say, hey, if the laptop is off, then keep charging power from the USB, like to an external device. That's pretty useful. Do I want the fans loud or cool? Do I want to resume like within 15 minutes of closing the laptop lid, like do a quick resume? This one's cool because if you have your laptop installed in a dock or whatever most of the time, then apparently it degrades your battery life, so you can set the battery to charge a little less than 100%, like 90%, and that will extend the life of the battery. So that's pretty cool in this app. You can also control the whether the trackpad's enabled or not, the keypad backlighting, or keyboard backlighting I should say. So I just set this to low, but I usually have this turned off because I used my ThinkPad in my lap at this angle and it gets quite bright and irritating, and this is at the high level, so it's probably good in the dark or at a desk but not good in your lap, so I have it turned off. And you can even switch the control and function keys, which I don't think I've done in here, nope. And you can also default to whether the function key lock is on or off. It has some other stuff like whether the Dolby processing should be turned on or off for various applications and microphone settings and stuff. I'm going to show you the Lenovo Companion as well. I mean, these are interesting, although it would be better if they were just rolled into one app. And actually, I think there's another app you have to download, which is the Lenovo account login. So it's really 3 or 4 apps they should roll into one. But the cool thing about this one is that it lets you do system updates, a lot like the other system updater. And apparently when this came out, it didn't do BIOSes and things like that, although I've also read that they fixed that at some stage. So it should be have feature parity with the system update one that I used. But it can also do like a quick system health check, although funnily, one of them will always fail on the laptop, which is down here, the internet test, even though I'm on the internet. And tons of people have logged bugs saying, hey, it says I'm not on the internet, but I'm on the internet through Wi-Fi, so what the hell's going on? And that the Lenovo haven't fixed it. So, I mean, you probably don't care about that stuff, but I thought it's interesting to go over because I didn't see anyone really doing that in any video reviews. I'm going to show you the comparison of the size now. So this is compared to the T430S. I thought this T430S was a 15-inch laptop, but I guess not. Because look, the P51 is way bigger. But thickness-wise, actually, they're exactly the same height. You may not look at here, but they are. And if I was to compare it to the MacBook, which I have lots of cool stickers on, and I'm wondering whether to defile the P51 with stickers or not, they're very similar. The P51 is just a little bit wider, and of course it's going to be thicker because it does real work. So that's that comparison. What I wanted to show you as well though is this is a cool Lenovo bag. This is a professional backpack, and it's got these kind of magnet flaps here which aren't very useful. Some cup holder things a little passport tray. But what I really like about it, I mean, apart from what I really like about it is a little track point rubber in here. I think that's awesome, and the styling of it. But in here, there is a kind of sling which is made out of stretchy material. And the idea is that when the laptop goes in, maybe I'll just see if I can, wait, let me put this in. There we go. So when the laptop goes in, I know this video is really unprofessional, whatever. It fits in perfectly. Oh, it's so good. It's like that subreddit, things that fit or whatever. Anyway, so if you were to drop your bag, the laptop kind of bounces in that sling instead of just smashing against the ground, and in the case of a ThinkPad, damaging the ground. So that's a really nice feature right there. And you can see the little red light here indicating the system's sleeping or something. So yeah, I kind of like this backpack, although I don't think it's waterproof or anything. I haven't seen anything from Lenovo to say whether it is, and there's not really much about it online, but it looks pretty. And it also opens flat, like completely flat for airport scanning and stuff. You can split the whole bag in half. And I was reading about why that was, and it was because it's very hard for the TSA in America to scan, x-ray what's in the bag and understand what's going on, because there'll be so many cables and things. But once you split the bag into two portions, it's easier for them to identify that you're not carrying anything naughty. So that's my quick review of a P51. I hope you found it interesting. Overall, I really like the laptop. I mean, I got it for work purposes, so I mean, for my own work from home kind of purposes, work would never buy me a laptop like this. So it's cool. I'd probably recommend it. Get a 4K screen if you do any kind of photo editing or whatever. But otherwise, it's a really good Windows laptop. See ya.